No one told me that going from night shift to meetings would be this big of an adjustment. From scrubs to slacks, I had to learn quick. Hi guys, welcome back to RTs Share Tea, where respiratory therapists live out loud. With me, your host, Linda Fry, the Asthma Lady. Yes, welcome everyone. Welcome to anyone new. And today, I am sharing with you what I had to learn quick, transitioning from night shift respiratory therapist to day shift administrative leadership position. Okay, so last year I had an episode called It Was When I Knew It Was Time to Move On, right? So, and I'm going to put that in the description as well. All right, so you have some context to this episode. This episode, I want to give you guys like how I felt, like the spider senses, the tingling, the intuition that I wanted to do more, right? I wanted to be a part of impactful work where I was helping change the system, the healthcare system, right? So I felt it as I was in the ER and ICU in these settings and seeing the same patients come in for the same things over and over again. That to me was a signal that it was time for me to move on. Now, here's another thing. Before I shifted into a leadership position, I sort of was already in situations where I was in leadership. And let me give you examples. I never was the official like night shift lead therapist, right? But I did function as a night shift lead therapist. I never had the title. So what happened was people, the team, they trusted me, right? So when the supervisor was not in, right, was out or wasn't available, they would come to me to break up the assignment, right? Because I was just kind of that person that was, I was the Switzerland pretty much. Like it didn't matter to me who you were. I would look at the assignment and break it up accordingly, right? I also was the person that when we were needing BiPAPs and, other equipment, I would make the call to get the extra BiPAPs. I would be the one that would travel, that would go to all the rapid responses. So this led to people, the team just trusting me and would value my opinion. I would speak up at staff meetings. So I was already like kind of in this role without even knowing it. And then as a graduate assistant, when I went back to get my master's, I was also the program manager for the Brenda Pillar asthma education programs. And that came with its own admin type work. Right. So I'm trying to give you the context of what made me feel comfortable moving into this position from being night shift. At that time, I was night shift for 7 years. So in the hospital, night shift was all I knew at that time. So yes, now it was time for me. I interviewed once I got my master's, I interviewed for leadership positions. So I went for every position. I didn't care if they asked for a respiratory therapist or not. I applied for it, right? And it worked out. I got a position as the assistant director of medicine. So I was middle management. Now, this is what they don't tell you, right? So this is what this episode is about. So going from night shift to day shift, these are the things that I wish somebody had told me and what I had to learn very quickly. What I had to learn very quick was, number one, how to dress for the part. So yes, so I think people would, I mean, it sounds like a no-brainer. Admin job, you need like office clothes. Okay, so going from night shift, like I said, and then going into a highly visible administrative position, I had to learn where to get the clothes, right? Because like I said, all I had was scrubs, I had church clothes, I had club clothes, right? I was at the club, I was outside. But yeah, that was pretty much it. Some jeans and t-shirts, but I was just never that girl. I was never that person. I never really had like corporate jobs. So I had to go get some work clothes. All right. So for me, I had to get me those blazers. I had to get me those suits. I had to go to, my saving grace was Express and Zara's. And so these stores. So yes, I had to learn how to dress for the part. I had interview clothes, but didn't have the work clothes. So the number two thing I had to learn real quick was how to be comfortable with the culture shock of being around other administrative folks with way higher titles than mine. Okay, so I had to very quickly get comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? Because my title was relatively smaller compared to who was around me at a lot of meetings. And yeah, I had to get over that. And because I could not, oftentimes I would be at the meetings and I'd be like, well, how did I get? Do I even belong here? So, and I had to really talk to myself in a way where it was like, well, listen, you here and you're here for a reason, and let's not be dead weight. All right. So I had to really learn how to get over the culture shock. The number three thing that I had to learn how to do real quick, how to conduct a formal meeting. Yes, I remember first taking the job. I think the first week or second week in, there was a meeting on my calendar. I went to the meeting and everyone was looking at me after I introduced myself. You know, I walked into the room and they were like, oh, you're the new assistant director? And I was like, yes. And they're like, this is your meeting. Where's the agenda? I was like, you talking to me? This is my meeting? Okay. So I had to get with it quick, right? So I had to learn how to create an agenda for the meeting, right? So I learned that very quickly. And trust me, that never happened again after that. So it's one of those on the job trainings. Nobody really took me aside and told me like how to run a formal meeting. At another meeting after that, someone kind of was like, hey, listen, we don't know who each other are. Why don't you have each person why don't we go around and say what we each do, our titles, and where, you know, what facility we're from, because everybody wasn't from the same hospital. And I was like, that's a great idea, right? So another on the job training. So I had to learn how to formally conduct a meeting. But every time there was like a good catch, like something that I missed, I learned quick. So that was something that no one really taught me. I had to learn on the job. And speaking of meetings, I also had to learn like how to book the room for a meeting, to figure out if we're going to have refreshments or not, where the refreshments were going to come from. How about this? Speaking behind a podium. I didn't even know. Really, I wasn't really paying attention that my job, this new administrative leadership position, was going to come with public speaking. Oh yeah. So that's another thing I had to learn real quick, was how to feel comfortable behind a podium. So once again, really trying to learn to get comfortable while being uncomfortable. So that was another one of those situations. I mentioned public speaking. So that was an ongoing thing that I had to train myself on. And I've had episodes on how I trained myself to do public speaking, and I will put that in the description as well. But yeah, so this was another thing that I had to really get comfortable with, is public speaking. All right, the next one after that was emotional intelligence, right? So knowing about what to do with all of these emotions. So my emotions, my leadership emotions, my team's emotions, right? So making sure that my body language wasn't saying other things that my mouth was saying. So I really enjoyed the fact that, and I did mention this before, while the first couple of months of taking the position, they did send me to management classes. So just knowing how to deal with things like emotional intelligence. And the next thing I had to learn real quick was conflict resolution and conflict management, right? So just knowing how to resolve a conflict between, people on my team, the staff, right? So that was something that I had to learn officially how to do. And that was also part of the management training, is also, how to discipline, how to take disciplinary action when someone is not moving accordingly. And another thing is, even in general, my style of management, of my leadership style, is coaching, right? So I am a coach pretty much, and that's how I interact with anyone that's on my team or anyone that works with me, is coaching. And even that is something that I had to learn relatively quick, because you can't manage everyone the same. So you really have to take the time and tailor your leadership style according to what the team member needs. And I had to learn that relatively quick. And another thing that I had to learn real quick, going from night shift RT to day shift administrative leadership position, is how to delegate. Yes, how to delegate. So in the beginning, that was a little struggle for me, because for me to understand something, I have to do it. You know what I'm saying? So I have to see it and I have to do it. So delegating in the beginning was a little bit of a struggle, but I learned relatively quick how to do it, because you can't do everything. You can't. And that is the point of you as a leader, is to push everyone to be the best version of themselves. And someone cannot grow if you are doing the work for them, right? So I had to learn how to allow people to do their jobs and give them the resources that they needed to be the best versions of themselves. And my overall experience and what was the best thing for me and what I really did learn is to bring my clinical voice with me into the administrative space. And this was a huge resource for me, actually. So whenever I was at a meeting and leadership, they're talking about the ER space, they're talking about ICU, they were talking about what was going on in the community or anything like that, I was able to bring all of my perspectives from these settings already, because as a respiratory therapist, we in all types of settings. So I've already been in these settings. So I was able to speak on the experiences. So not just being an administrative person, but also using the clinical voice to help make decisions and add value. All right, guys. So I hope that you got a good grasp of what it takes to transition between night shift and going to a day shift leadership position. I hope I kind of gave you an idea of what that looks like, and sometimes even the oversights, because I did relatively feel like I was ready for the position. I was like, I got this. And then those were just some of the things that kind of slipped through the cracks for me, but I learned it right on the job, right? So on the job training. And you don't stop being a respiratory therapist when you lead. You're just leading as a respiratory therapist in a different way, right? So you're being a part of change. And I enjoy being a part of impactful work. So, and also just know that I don't remember where I heard this from, but it does relatively take 8 months to fully understand your job role when you're in leadership, right? Especially when you're in an establishment, an institution, an organization that has been around for years. It really takes you time to fully grasp what you actually do. So give yourself grace. And that was another thing that I had to learn how to do quick, was give myself grace. All right, guys, I hope you learned something from me here today. Let me know, are you thinking about getting into leadership? All right, so let's keep carrying on these conversations. Let me know. Are you scared? Keep it real. Have you thought about it? Is your spider senses tingling? Right? Let me know. Yes, know that we are growing together. There is so much more to come. I just want to say thank you for coming with me along for the ride. Right, guys? We are here every Wednesday, except for when I'm on vacation, on most podcast platforms, and we are on YouTube on Thursdays. All right, guys, remember to invest in yourself and to only compete with yesterday's version of you. I'll see you next time. Bye.